Hey there, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and I'm in the car again. It's another great weekend here in the Baltimore, D.C. area, but this time I'm heading away from Baltimore, heading to Hagerstown, Maryland for the Fourth State Comic Con. And this is a little comic book convention that's more of a pop culture convention because it's got a weird, eclectic mix of very minor actors, some comic book artists, some anime voice actors. It's just a weird mix, but it's a fun little convention, and it's a little bit different than just going to a comic book show. But that doesn't mean that they don't have comic book dealers, and that's why I'm going, because my experience in the past is, even though they don't have a lot of comic book dealers, some of them are pretty good. And to be quite honest, when I started working on my complete run of Invaders, it kind of got jump started a year ago at this convention. I'd only picked up a couple of the keys, right? Like issue number 1 or the giant size, king size annual with the Alex Stromberg cover. The rest of them, there's some minor keys in there, but I wasn't looking to start a run. And all of a sudden, last year, I went to one dealer just before I left, and he had a big giant run of Invaders books. So I ended up picking them up. They were really inexpensive, and to be quite honest, they were 50% off because it was the last hour of the show. So that's what got me started. So I'm heading back, and I'm going to see what they have again this year. I'm hoping that a lot of people aren't going to start packing up because it's going to get late in the day, and I'm not going to have a lot of time, and I'm hoping that people will still be set up when I get there. But let me get there. I will try to take some footage, but it may be limited on the amount of time I have, but I will try to shoot some footage. I'll show you what the con looks like, and then I'll get back home and I'll show off anything that I pick up from this con. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back. All right, everybody, I just finished up at the Four-State Comic-Con here in Hagerstown, Maryland, and I'm going to be heading home. Once I get home, I will sit down and I'll show you everything that I picked up. Wasn't sure what to expect today, but they had more comic book dealers than they did the last 2 years, at least it felt like it. And what's funny is a couple of these dealers I know because they set up at the local shows back in Baltimore and DC. So I was able to find a few things in there, including maybe some Invaders books at some really good prices. In fact, it's from the same dealer I bought some from last year. So happy about that. I will show those off to you as well as everything else. But had a great time overall, and generally this was a fun little Comic-Con. There's a lot of cosplay going on. There's a lot of dealers here, as you can see in the footage. Well, maybe I didn't shoot as much as I probably should have, but as you can see in the footage, there were definitely some cosplay-centric type businesses that were catering to accessories and costumes and things like that. There was a general, like I said, it's a pop culture kind of con. You had actors that had minor roles in cult classics, and you had science fiction writers selling their own books. You had comic book artists that were there that I've met before. Actually, there was Jeff Isherwood, I believe I got his name right, was there, and I met him down at Heroes. It was either Heroes or Baltimore last year, and I had some of his Suicide Squad pages that he signed for me, so that was pretty cool. So anyway, give me a few moments. For you, it'll be a few moments, and for me, it's going to be about an hour and a half to get back home. But once I get back home, I will show off everything I picked up today, so stay tuned.
One eternity later.
All right, guys, I finally made it back home from Hagerstown, Maryland, where I was at the Four-State Comic-Con, and I had a great time, like I mentioned before. But once I sat down and I pulled the books out, I realized I only bought books from one dealer with a batch, and then I bought one big book from a dealer that usually I see in the Baltimore area at the shows over here in Baltimore and DC. And I can't even show you that book because, well, stay tuned for that. I'll tell you the story about that in a little bit. But again, had a great time. You can check out the Four-State Comic-Con. I will give a link in the description below so you can visit them and you can find out more about that convention in Hagerstown and their sister convention up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's the same group. They just do a Four-State Comic-Con in the two different locations at different times during the year. But let's get into the books that I picked up. And what was curious was this was from the same dealer that I picked up books from a year ago. And I remember this because he's the dealer that I mentioned that I got the Invaders books from a year ago when I had no intention of getting into a run of Invaders. It turned out he got me jump started because he had the conditions were really good, and it was the last hour of the show, so they were running half off of everything. So I was getting these really good Invaders books for just a few dollars, and I had no intention of doing it, but they were the ones that got me jump started. And I might not have mentioned it last year who it was, but I made sure I got a card from them this year. It was Country Roads Comics, and I will leave their information in the description as well, because I talked to them and I reminded them I do a YouTube show, so hopefully those guys will check me out as well. But I want to give them a plug because I enjoy going back there because they've got some really good books, and I think the prices are really good too. It wasn't a lot of high-end big boy books, although they did have slabs and they did have a few things there. But you could work on some runs on some things. I know there was a fellow there that when I was looking at some boxes, he was buying a stack of Fantastic Four books, a lot of John Byrne books. I think I saw him pulling out there. But anyway, shout out to Country Roads Comics. I'll put that description down in a link down in the description so you can find out about those guys. But let's get into the books. What did I say? It was Invaders books, and what did I find again was more Invaders books. And I didn't take everything because some of them had spine ticks and they were a little bit lower grade, but I did pick out 3 that I thought were really good. They're maybe not 9.8 candidates, but they're still near mint minus in that range, and that's fine for me because I don't plan on getting any of these Invaders books graded except for the possibility of issue number 1, the giant size or the king size annual with the Alex Schomburg cover. Maybe there's a couple others that I kind of really, maybe, but that's pushing it a little bit. These are the kind of books that you need to get a 9.8 on to really have some value. 9.6s for the majority will just fall off the cliff on all of these. But I'm very satisfied to work on this run and have a decently high grade run of the entire thing. So let's get into the books. I'll show you which ones I picked up that I needed off of my list. We picked up issue number 16, and that's got a Kirby cover there. Got Masterman right there. And what you got these great Kirby covers on a lot of these, yet you've got that Frank Robbins artwork. And I don't know if he did the artwork for every one of the books, but not my favorite. But they were still fun. I still like this run. I can kind of get past the art. I can enjoy reading these books. These are Roy Thomas books, so you know they're well written. I picked up issue number 14, and I remember having that one as a kid. Who do you have on the cover here? You've got the Crusaders, and they wrote on the back of the bag the bag right here. It says, "First team appearance of the Crusaders, the first appearance of the Spirit of '76." Oh, and I'm looking at the one I just showed you with Masterman. I didn't think about it because issue 17 has this beautiful cover. So actually, it's the one that kind of jump-started me getting the rest of them was issue 17 with Warrior Woman. But her first appearance is actually in 16 right there. So I'd forgotten about that, but because she's not on the cover, but she has this fantastic cover for the second appearance. And then the other Invaders that I got was issue number 22, and I'm not sure, but that might be a Gil Kane cover. I'm not really sure, but it's got the Human Torch and Toro right there. It's the origin of Toro. They wrote in the back of that one as well. So I picked those up, and I don't know how he knew, how the owner of this Country Roads Comics knew, but he said, "Hey, I've got some Defenders over there too." And I guess it's just a natural thing if you're working on a run of a group book from the 70s. If you're doing the Invaders, you presume you're probably already done the Fantastic Four, X-Men, and the Avengers. What's next? And it's the Defenders. And I said, "How did you know? I'm considering this." I literally just went to Hello Comics in Charlottesville, Virginia, and I had to stop myself from going into the Defenders bin because I had already picked up so many books, and the order was too much. I was buying too much as it was. So I said, I'll defer. I'll put the Defenders down list at some point. But what do you know? I got into the box, and what I did was, these things are $3, $2 and $3 a piece. I mean, some of them are minor keys. Some of them probably not even keys. But I did pick up 2 Defenders books, and it's because the conditions were really good. I picked up issue number 53, and I think this is the appearance. This is probably the first appearance, maybe, of the Red Guardian, the new Red Guardian. I don't know. I'm just guessing based on the cover. And then I picked up this really cool cover right here, Defender 61. What's funny is that cover, this is well before his time, but it looks very much like a Mike Aldred Madman cover. I don't know who did the art on this. If I remember to put it on the video before I release the video, I'll look it up. But this right there has all the trademark feelings of a Mike Aldred Madman comic book right there. So right there were the comic books I picked up from Country Roads Comics. And I look forward to hopefully seeing them again. They're not sure if they're going to come back again next year, but I will keep in touch with them. I'm going to follow them on social media, so I hope you guys do the same. So that leaves me with, what else did you buy? So before we get into the comic book, the last and the only other comic book that I bought, there was something else that I did buy. And that was what I mentioned before. I was looking at toys. There's a lot of toys there. Action figures, Funkos, lots of Funkos. You saw it in the pictures. And what do I do when I go to these things solo or even with my wife? My daughter is a huge Harley Quinn fan. She is amassing a massive collection of Funkos and action figures and whatnot with Harley Quinn. And it's very tough to buy for her because you can't just buy anything. As I might have mentioned earlier, 9 times out of 10, you're going to buy something she's already got. So I have to kind of basically ask her, and I send her photos. What about this? What about that? And what did I get was, and we'll put this down right here. I found it was Harley Quinn, and I think this is from the new TV, the animated show, I think. And this is just a regular Harley Quinn action figure right there, or action figure, the Funko, of course. And I was real happy to find this, and I didn't expect to find any more while I was there. But I did find another dealer who had some of them that I didn't recognize either. And they've got, and I'm not sure what line this is actually in. There's so many of these, and I don't keep track of them myself. But they had Harley Quinn on Apocalypse. And I remember that in the comics where she went to Apocalypse and got some of the big Barda type costume. And you can see it on her ears right there, the headdress and everything. So I picked that up. And in the same line, we've got Harley Quinn with weapons. And she's got a big, giant mallet that you can hardly see there inside the box. And let's see. And then lastly, I picked up Harley Quinn with the bat. The last 3 were all part of the same. I'm looking on the back of the box. There's 4 in this line right here, and they didn't have the 4th one, Harley Quinn with pizza. But this is Harley Quinn with bat. So these are all for my daughter. She already knows she's going to get them. I told her, don't buy anything, because her birthday's not for many months down the road, as well as Christmas. So she's going to have to wait on these a little bit, and hopefully she will remember not to buy these right here. But I was mistaken. I was going to tell you I had one more comic that I wasn't even going to be able to show you, but I was going to tell you about. But the Country Roads Comics showed me a comic, and he said it's the first appearance of this character in comics. I don't know if that's true or not, but it was such an interesting story. It was a VG copy of this book, but I said I don't care. He was going to sell it to me for $1, and it's a book I've already got. It's Legion of Superheroes number 300. I've got this book, and I didn't think anything about it. I don't remember it being a key, but apparently it's the first appearance of Garfield in the comics. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So he opens up the book here, and let me see if I can find it. In the back of the book, at the end of the story, there is a giant group shot of the entire team. And right there, you guys will have to, maybe I'll do a scan of this and I'll show you a close-up. But right there, if you look really close, there's Garfield. And that's pretty crazy. And this is not a great copy. It's a VG copy. I mean, you can see the color rub over here is basically it's a VG copy, guys. But for $1, I said I've got to buy it so I can tell a story on the channel here. So I thought that was pretty cool. So that leaves me with, what was the big book that you ended up buying? And I'll just tell you now, and I'll put a graphic over here so you can see it. Let's put this down so it'll be clean. I ended up buying a Watchmen number 1. And it's been a while since I bought one. The last 2 I bought was at Baltimore Comic-Con. And I sent both of those copies in to CBCS over a year ago for a Dave Gibbons signing. And I actually had him remark one of them. Unfortunately, the one I had remarked came back in 9.4. The other one actually came back as a 9.6. They were both excellent copies. And this copy I bought right here, it's in really good shape. And if you guys get a chance, I'm going to put out a video, my first tutorial video on how I clean and press. And the reason I can't show it to you right here is because by this point, I'm filming this right now after I got back from the Comic-Con from Fourth State. But in between me filming this and time I got home, I actually took that comic and I did a tutorial video on how to clean and press that comic. And it's already been in the press. I've already taken it out, and now it's in a cold press for the next 12 to 14 hours. And the reason I wanted to get that comic cleaned and pressed as soon as possible was that the CGC deadline to get books into Dave Gibbons is coming up very quickly. So I don't have a lot of time to spare. So as soon as I got home, that's what I did. Was I got that book. I did a lot of work on it. It didn't need a lot of work, but what I also did was I took advantage of the situation and I filmed a tutorial. So you guys will have to check that video out in a future episode. So it's right now, it is out of the press. I won't go into the details right now, but it is out of the press, but I've got it in a cold press right now. And for the next 12 to 14 or so hours, I'm going to leave it in the cold press and make it as good as possible. And then I will do a bagging board that is set up for a signature signing, and we'll get it into CGC as soon as possible. I think it needs to be there by May 3rd. By the time you guys see this video, we're probably already going to be past that date as well. But I just want to give you some time frame about when I'm doing some of these things. But anyway, guys, that is it. That is everything that I picked up at the Four State Comic-Con. Not a lot of stuff, and the only real expensive book was the Watchmen right there. I got a pretty decent deal. It was a little bit more expensive than I wanted, and then I negotiated it down to something I was more comfortable at. And I don't think the dealer liked that. I don't know. He had an odd. Well, I made the first offer, and he literally just walked off. And I'm going, okay, what do you want for it then? He didn't even give me a chance, and I finally had to kind of yell down to him. One of his helpers actually said, "Hey, so what do you want?" And he came back and basically came up $5 from what I offered, and it's like, okay, fine, cash. And then he walked off again. So I don't know. I think I didn't make his day on that, but he sold me the book, and I'm pretty happy with it. So we'll see, and we'll get that in the CGC at some point. Well, at some point, as soon as possible, and hopefully that will get back. I don't expect that back anytime soon because I think the signing is over in London. So they are going to be taking a lot of books over to London to have Dave Gibbons sign that. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm exhausted from all the filming that I did today and going through the boxes. I had a lot of fun. Even though I didn't buy a lot of stuff, I did get some Invaders books, and I started on a little bit of a Defenders run. Is this the start of working on the Defenders? I mean, I've already been picking up a few issues here and there, but if this becomes a thing where I finally decide, okay, we're going to work on a Defenders run, I may consider this the start of something just like I did the Invaders run. I don't know. I'm having fun with it. These weren't expensive books. I hope my daughter Jessica enjoys the Funkos when she finally gets them. I hope you guys will check out Four State Comic-Con, whether it's in Hagerstown, Maryland, or Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Again, I'll leave that information in the description down below. But that's it, guys. I had a great time. Again, let me know what you thought about everything by leaving me a comment in the comments section. And if you like this kind of content, definitely hit the like button, smash the subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the episodes that I put out each and every week, Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m. All right, guys, that's it. I'm almost out of here. I am exhausted. I'm going to hit the bed. You take care, and I will see you for the next episode. Just remember, every comic has a story.